What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be talking about the XRP price chart, the accumulation schematic that we're in currently right now, as we've been sitting in this price range for 14 months, how we've been through these before, multiple times here on the XRP price chart, what it was like going through these, especially near the end, and how what we're seeing currently right now in the market is not all that different from back then. Our minds would tell us that things would look optimistic, things would look great before price goes and takes off. But having been through a couple of these already with XRP, I can tell you that is not historically the case. That typically when prices go firing up 200% in a matter of 1 week, usually that moment right before is often pretty hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But how it was those moments shortly before that eventually led to the big, fat, giant moves that came for XRP. When we get stuck in these ranges and hope pretty much goes out the window, that it eventually leads to those bigger moves. In the last couple of weeks, we've been pointing to how XRP's price behavior has been so similar to that after C19 hit, when it comes to timing and when it comes to the FTX collapse, and how capitulative volume, capitulative price action, and negativity, followed by reclaiming of the 200-day moving average and then bouncing right off of the 200-day moving average, just as we did in that exact time period back then in 2020. We also know that the correction that we've been experiencing with XRP since April of 2021 has been the exact same percentage as the correction that took place after a retracement in 2014 that accumulated all the way into 2017. That the drawdown here of 85% is precisely the same as what we've experienced for XRP in 2021 and 2022. And that not only we're experiencing price action similar to after C19, timing alignment as well, we're also experiencing similar price action to after a retracement, after a reaccumulation of equal percentages. And now here we go, getting really close to it being almost the exact same amount of time. There's really only about a week and a half left of this before we will have done the exact same amount of time as we did during this whole thing. Equal percentages and equal time in a week and a half. But as we sit here, people often feel pretty beat up. If I spend an hour on Twitter, which I normally do every day, it's not hard to see a lot of the things that are shared out there in the XRP community when it comes to infighting or being angry at Ripple. You can see the tone really changing out there in social media. And you can see frustration, impatience, and a lot of it likely has to do with the fact that we've been in this lawsuit with the SEC versus Ripple for 2 years and 7 months. We're all patiently waiting for Judge Torres to release the verdict. The anticipation is strong. The doubt gets worse. There becomes more time to sit in your own head and come up with all the different scenarios. And my wife has gotten a lot better at this, but I used to always give her a hard time about it, that she would always think of the worst case scenario. And then that always became the most likely scenario that was going to happen, which of course never did. But it's like going into an interview and kind of expecting how the interview is going to go. You come up with all the different ways this thing could happen, and then it's just totally different. Or you have an important meeting or an important presentation, and you just come up with all these different scenarios in your head. You think of the worst case ones. You kind of prepare for those, like those are the most likely. And the more time you think about it, the louder those thoughts get. And I think that's just in the kind of time frame that we're in right now. We've been here for a long time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. And when we've had these situations before, this was the exact same style stuff we saw in the market. It was always usually darkest in its final hour. I had conducted a survey in a live stream that I did a couple of weeks ago, and I asked people, hey, when did you come in here? Were you here in, 2017 and 2018 and 2019 and 2020, or did you come in here in 2021 and 2022 into the crypto market? And 2/3 of people said they came into the market during, peak YOLO time of 2021, which shocked me, which would mean that 2/3 of the people who are in XRP have never experienced what it's like to be in a breakout moment happening for XRP. Their only experience is that. So I can see why it's difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel if that's the only experience you have in this. There's nothing that feels good about being in a range for over a year. We definitely had that happen. For an example of just how long time is and how long we sat down in here, we were here even longer and went way lower. XRP had dropped actually like 96% at that time. A 96% drop here for XRP would take it off the chart. It would take it down to about 6.5 cents to have the equivalent move down of what that was like. to have that experience. But the good news is we can definitely see we've had these happen before here on XRP. They're not unusual. We actually have multiple places for them to show up at. And as we talked about with even in 2020, kind of where we're at is just like that final phase before all of these took off and got going. But what I remember from being a participant of this one here in 2017 and here in 2020 is what the sentiment was like in the market. I still to this day don't think I've seen sentiment as bad as it was back in here right at the very end. And I've told that story so many times that that's the factor that most people don't take into consideration on here is that, of course, we all have emotions. Emotions have been our guide our whole lives. It's our flight or fight. It's our gut instinct. It's our intuition. And I'll just never forget how negative the market was here at this time. And that we had a lot of similar behavior here in 2020. And what was the circumstance that was happening? And both of these, Bitcoin was moving up, both in 2017 and here in 2020. As you know, if you've been watching this YouTube channel, we've been spending a lot of time talking about Bitcoin. There's a very good reason. That's because that's when XRP tends to move. Not the thing everybody wants to hear, right? We all hear all the narratives of CBDCs and pegged to gold and all the money and quantum financial system of the Federal Reserve buying back. It's a whole lot less appealing to hear that Bitcoin is the storyteller. And the charts prove that to be true, whether it's right here, 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 or here. These breakouts and moves up all happen when Bitcoin is doing something big. And we can see that if we just throw Bitcoin on the chart and see that Bitcoin was going back after several years in here from 2014 to 2017, back to its all-time high. Boom, right at that point, that's when XRP shoots off, right? So here you go. There's Bitcoin getting back to its all-time high. XRP, same time period. Boom, all-time high. There goes XRP. Boom, right? XRP sits in a range, waiting. Bitcoin approaches its top, goes back into the retrace. After the top, boom, XRP goes. There's a rotation. Head over here to 2020. What's happening with Bitcoin here? We could see that Bitcoin is heading back to its all-time high. As we get there, boom, that's when XRP takes off. Then we all know the story. The SEC sued Ripple, but then move over here. And then what happens when this takeoff happens? It's right here into Bitcoin's high, right? April 14th, the day Coinbase IPOs, the day Bitcoin peaks here. There is no secret plans within plans that is causing the price to rise. It is very clear it's happening with the market. And next month will be 10 years that we'll have data for the XRP price chart. And we will then have had 10 years of data in which XRP has behaved with Bitcoin, regardless of where we're looking at time periods, that they are always happening together. And it becomes a lot harder to make YouTube videos about peg to gold and CBDC, secret plans within plans and riddles, when this has just been the reality, right? I mean, we can have building, we can have ecosystem growth, we can have everything, but it tends to really be tied to price appreciation happens when liquidity is within the market and specifically when the liquidity is pouring into the market. So I get asked quite frequently, do I think if Ripple wins the lawsuit and XRP is deemed not a security and it gets put back on all exchanges, will we see the price explode to like $10? One, we have no historical basis to go on to say what would happen in that event. That hasn't happened in the cryptocurrency market to know what happens when the SEC sues somebody. An asset gets delisted for 2.5 years and then it gets put back on. What happens? So any speculation, of course, is just speculation, but just that alone gives everybody the freedom to run rampant on that speculation, which is why we can get all those YouTube videos speculating everything crazy. But even to get to $10, right, that's a $500 billion market cap for XRP. Will that piece of news move it that much? I could see a price pop happening, but if we try to avoid that storytelling and just stick to how has the price behaved for the last decade, it would say in order for something like new all-time highs to happen, we would need to see Bitcoin's price moving upward. We need to see more liquidity coming into the market. Otherwise, where's that $500 billion, which obviously a market cap doesn't need $500 billion of liquidity to get to that price, but where's that money going to come from? So I always try to keep that level head too when I'm looking at this data, because when we look at this stuff too, you got to be real like, man, am I just creating moon math content? Am I just creating something and I'm seeing what I want to see? We're really not seeing these things in the market. Just because, fractals look similar or price behavior looks similar, does that really mean that price is going to go to the upside next. I have to always say to myself, well, what were the other conditions happening in the market at the same time for each of these scenarios? And each of them were accompanied by Bitcoin's price going up. More money coming into the cryptocurrency market at the time, or Bitcoin topping and going into a retrace, whatnot, excessive endings to market cycles. But both this one here and this one here were based on Bitcoin's price action rising back after years of bearishness. So, of course, we spend time looking at a lot of Bitcoin price charts in order to see, are we entering a time period that can break out and go higher? And the one, of course, we've been observing has been what happened back in 2020 after we had the C19 sell-off happen, which was timed very similar to where we have the FTX collapse and where our prices have been going to, consolidating price structures, ABC corrections, shooting back up, setting a new 13-month high last week. And we've been paying attention to short-term price action, hoping to get some type of breakout to emerge as we did in 2020. But again, just looking at short-term price action, are we seeing just what we want to see? That's why we zoom out and we take a look at the bigger context of the market to say, hey, look, each time we pull out of these things and prices start shifting back upwards, things that happen is that the stochastic RSI starts shooting to the upside on the monthly time frame. Each time this has happened, bottom was already in. We're already working our way back up. The recoveries are different in both of these, but that marked the move back to the upside. We see the flip happening over here on the MACD. We've discussed this. Most people will label the top of Bitcoin being here in November of 2021, but our MACD clearly shows us that just like in 2017, the peak of Bitcoin took place where? Right there in April of 2021, just as we saw that peak of XRP come in, as we pointed to right here, April of 2021, which would indicate we're much further into this than those who labeled the top as being right here in November. We've also done videos on XRP, on Ethereum, on Bitcoin, just in the past 2 weeks, discussing all these things and discussing on these larger time frames how far into this we are, how Ethereum has even hit that perfect extension on an expanded flat of 1.236 Fibonacci with all the wave counts appropriate for it to already be in recovery. And for XRP, like, it is so not desired to talk about Ethereum. In this video I put out 2 weeks ago, look at this, 60,000 views on XRP. We're talking about prices. And in that video, very specific on, like, you know, a lot of this is tied to Ethereum. And I'm going to be putting out a video to explain that. And then we move on to the next one. 24,000 views. Now you say to yourself, okay, that's fine. Whatever. You know, maybe the XRP video got, you know, pushed out more in the algorithm within YouTube or something like that, right? But 24,000, that's way below my statistical average. That means that just people didn't want to watch it because it's about Ethereum. But that's because XRP becomes a whole lot less sexy when we start really tying it to the rest of the market. And there's a very good reason that we talk about these things with Ethereum. We talk about these things with Bitcoin. And it's so this isn't mood math. To say what we're seeing here is not just some price structure I want to see because I want price to go up, but to build the bigger case of the market. There's always going to be speculation when it comes to price guessing or where the market's going to go. But when I'm doing it, I'm trying to give all the stats and all the justifications and the reasons why. And these are the things that we have to look for if we want to not just live in CBDCs are going to take over the planet. XRP is going to be the global reserve currency. And I own 17 XRPs and the Fed is going to buy them back for $500,000 each. You know what I mean? Like, we could go on real data and like not be coming up with crazy stuff. When price appreciated like this back in 2020, it was as Bitcoin was going up. It was this exact moment right here, like we've been talking about for Bitcoin for the last several months. We can clearly see that if we go back in time to that moment and then add Bitcoin on top, that here you are, there's Bitcoin. We'll flip these. Here's that moment in time for Bitcoin, and there's XRP. It took Bitcoin getting out and continuing higher for the breakout to emerge for XRP. Fortunately, that's what we've been watching on Bitcoin for the last several months. So far, things are okay. If we finally get that break in Bitcoin, woohoo, there we go. But that's the story too here, which is where we're at. And I think half the battle, no, it's not half. It's like 90% of the battle is something within ourselves. It's typically impatience, it's doubt, it's narratives, it's all the different stuff that happen while we sit in these things. And I probably wouldn't bring this up had it not felt like the last like 72 hours over there on Twitter had been this like tone shift that's been happening over there within the XRP community, and even like people getting mad at other Twitter personalities in the XRP community. And we can go through all of these charts and talk about how great things look, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's various altcoins and their Wyckoff accumulation schematics that we see all over the market, and that I posted about in a thread over here on Twitter over the course of the weekend, that we've seen some breakouts, but we're also seeing a lot of these structures throughout the rest of the market that we could be optimistic for them, but it doesn't change the sentiment and the feeling that the market has during these types of moments. And that in this phase of accumulation, it is designed to get people to sell and to mislead the public about the future trend. And it's been a long time since we've talked about sentiment specifically, but that is what happened in all of these. I'll never forget how if you held XRP in here, you were considered the biggest dummy in crypto in here. This is where Bitcoin has gone from like $1,500 right here all the way up to $19,000. Bitcoin has done like a 10x, and XRP is like down 50% from its all-time high 7 months prior. I have still yet to see a time where XRP rose and it wasn't at a moment of extreme doubt and infighting within the XRP community. So I just wanted to let you know that if you're sitting there and you're watching all this stuff out there, you're watching all these people bicker with each other, man, that is what has happened every time. And if you find yourself real worried about a bunch of narratives and second guessing on that type of stuff, that's out of anybody's control. The timing of when, summary judgment is going to be released and all that stuff, it's clearly out of anybody's control. The only thing you can really look at is how the market has behaved historically. And that's when Bitcoin moves up. And if we're right on the verge of getting something like that, that's the time to start getting super excited right now. And I get it. We're stuck here. It's kind of like, we've been here for almost 3 weeks. Biting your fingernails, what's going to happen? But this is the thing that influences the price. And worrying so much about all those other things, it's just a lot of wasted energy. So we have all the setups that are great. These are the same setups we've had each time these things went on their explosions. We've done same percentages, same times, nearly almost the same time. What is it? I said 10 days till we hit the same amount of time. The game now is a test of patience and to see Bitcoin get out. My thoughts are we get this thing to go. All those other things everybody else is worrying about are going to be irrelevant. But if you're not foaming at the lips for this type of stuff or recognizing where we are and you're just paying attention to a bunch of people yapping at each other, hey man, let them yap, because even XRP's price chart is flashing all the bull signals on the big time frames. There's no question we're all beat up from this case, man. 2 years and 7 months. It's not easy. Nobody is saying this is a cakewalk, but there's a reason why I had to ramble for 32 minutes over here on bcbacker.com about emotional management. And it's because it doesn't matter sometimes what the charts look like. We're all human beings. We all get beat up. We look around us, we see everybody fighting, we see people presenting cases on why things are so bad, and it gets everybody's thoughts going. I had somebody comment in the live stream today and say, do you think it's a grand conspiracy that it's taking so long for this case to get ruled on, and that the judge is in on it with the SEC, and it's this big thing to delay it, and the judge is all part of it? And it's because everybody's just kind of reaching their breaking point. I think we've gone a couple months now, everybody waiting for that summary judgment to come out every Thursday and Friday on the edge of their seats, waiting for it to come out, and it doesn't come out. And I sympathize with that. And that's out of my control to know when the judge is going to do that. But what I can do is at least show the charts and show that, hey, Bitcoin is setting up very similar to what happens before things get moving. XRP's chart is totally set up how things are set up before it gets moving. And now we're seeing the emotional sentiment swing in the market that has happened each time before those things did occur. So I love you guys in the XRP community. We've been through this stuff for years. I can smell the finish line. And while looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum isn't sexy, I hope it does at least open your eyes a little bit. Say, hey, maybe the things you're worrying about aren't as important as some other things that you should be focusing on. So, if you're watching this and you're like, dude, I'm not even on Twitter. I don't even know what any of this is about. I've just been having my normal day. Everything's fine. My bad. But I know we've been stuck here with Bitcoin for a couple of weeks, and it's just definitely at a point where we'd like to see it get moving. So either way, we'll keep going at it every day, guys, until we get it. I hope I at least showed you what all those accumulation schematics looks like for XRP over the course of the years. It's all been tied to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's given us a beautiful structure. Now we're just all waiting. So till the next XRP video, hopefully we've got a move over there on Bitcoin. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for this one. I hope that you had a wonderful weekend. I want to thank you so much for watching. Of course, you guys could check out bcbacker.com. It's got my course over here where I recorded over 40 videos with over 11 hours of content diving into charts, talking about Wyckoff accumulation, Elliott theory, historical behavior of the crypto market, and a lot of lessons learned, along with stuff from market experience. But I poured my heart into this thing. If you like the content I put on my YouTube channel, it's very similar, very almost identical. You can check that out on bcbacker.com. Otherwise, I hope you guys are having a great day. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.